They laughed when they pushed my wheelchair down the stairs. They laughed when they poured milk on my head in the cafeteria. They laughed when they posted videos of me struggling to reach my locker. I didn't laugh. I remembered every single face. 15 years later, I walked into their father's boardrooms, not as the broken kid they tormented, but as the man who now owned everything their families built. And I fired them all. One by one. Listen, I know you're here for the story. And trust me, what I'm about to share with you will leave you speechless. But before we dive into the most brutal, satisfying revenge you've ever heard, I need something from you. If you've ever been bullied, if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever dreamed of the day your tormentors realize they messed with the wrong person, then hit that like button right now. Because this story is for you. And if you want more stories about people who turned their pain into power, who refused to stay victims, who came back stronger and made their enemies regret ever knowing their name, subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever been bullied so badly that you fantasized about revenge? Be honest. This is a safe space. Alright, let's get into it. The thing about being in a wheelchair at Riverside Preparatory Academy was that you became invisible and hypervisible at the same time. Ethan Cole knew this by his second week of freshman year. Invisible when teachers needed volunteers. Invisible when group projects formed and everyone suddenly had full teams. Invisible when the lunch table he sat at slowly emptied, one person at a time, until he was eating alone by the vending machines. But hypervisible when someone needed a laugh. Hypervisible when Camden Shaw, 6 feet 2 inches, trust fund heir lacrosse captain, decided the cafeteria was too quiet. Hypervisible when Brianna Rost, blonde, cheerleader, daughter of a real estate mogul, needed content for her Instagram story. Hypervisible when Julian Marks, Porter Knight and Vanessa Chin, the holy trinity of entitled cruelty, decided that Ethan's existence was inherently comedic. It was October when they started calling him Wheels. November when Camden first kicked his wheelchair out from under him in the hallway, sending Ethan sprawling onto the cold tile floor while a dozen students filmed it on their phones. December when Brianna posted a video of herself mocking the way Ethan's hands shook when he tried to open his locker. The caption, "When you can't even function LMAO skull dot," got 4,000 likes. Ethan remembered every single one. He lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling of his tiny bedroom in the apartment he shared with his mom, a nurse who worked double shifts to afford his medical expenses, and he didn't cry. He'd stopped crying in September. Instead he opened his laptop. He pulled up a document he'd started weeks ago. A list. Names. Faces. Incidents. Dates. Everything. Camden Shaw, father. Richard Shaw, CEO of Shaw Industrial Holdings. Brianna Rost, father. Gregory Rost, founder of Rostco Real Estate. Julian Marks, mother. Patricia Marks, COO of Marks & Associates PR. Porter Knight, father. Thomas Knight, owner of Knight Logistics. Vanessa Chin, parents. Michael and Susan Chin, Chin Technology Ventures. He added today's incident. Typed it out in clinical detail. Then he closed the laptop and stared at his hands. They shook. They always shook. Cerebral palsy didn't care that he had a 4.0 GPA. Didn't care that he'd taught himself to code at 12. Didn't care that he'd already been accepted into an online advanced mathematics program for gifted students. His body betrayed him. But his mind? His mind was a weapon they didn't even know existed. Across town, in a house that could fit Ethan's entire apartment building inside its foyer, Camden Shaw was laughing so hard he nearly choked on his protein shake. "Dude, did you see his face when he hit the ground?" Camden howled, replaying the video on his phone for the 5th time. "Priceless." "Send it to me," Julian said, sprawled across the leather couch in Camden's home theater. "I'm posting it." "Already did," Brianna chimed in, scrolling through her phone. "Got 800 likes in 10 minutes. Porter raised his glass of bourbon, yes, bourbon because his father let him drink at 16, and smirked. To Wheels, the gift that keeps on giving. They clinked glasses. Vanessa didn't laugh. She never really did. But she didn't stop them either, and that was the same thing. Camden's phone buzzed. A text from his dad. "Dad, close the merger. $40 million. Dinner at Lou Bernardine tomorrow. Bring your A-game." Camden grinned. Life was good. Life was easy. He had no idea that 15 years later, he'd be sitting in a sterile conference room, hands trembling, begging a man in a $10,000 suit, a man whose face he wouldn't even recognize, for his job. He had no idea that the man would smile and say no. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He didn't sleep most nights. Instead, he researched. Shaw Industrial Holdings, primarily manufacturing. Contracts with automotive companies. Projected revenue, $200 million annually. Vulnerabilities, over-reliance on 3 major clients. Potential leverage points, supplier contracts, union negotiations, board composition. He took notes. He always took notes. His mother knocked softly on his door at 2 a.m. "Baby, you need to sleep." "I'm fine, Mom. You have school in 5 hours." "I know." She hesitated. He could feel her worry through the door. But she didn't push. She never did. She was too tired to fight him and he was too stubborn to lose. When she left, he returned to his screen. He didn't know how yet. But he knew why. And in the darkness of his room, lit only by the glow of his laptop, Ethan Cole made a promise to himself. One day they'll beg me for mercy. And I won't give it to them. The worst day of Ethan Cole's life happened on a Tuesday. It was February. The kind of cold that made metal sting against skin. The kind of morning where breath fogged in the air and the wheelchair ramp leading into Riverside Prep was slick with ice that maintenance forgot to salt. Ethan had learned to navigate it. Slow. Controlled. Don't rush. But Camden Shaw didn't care about control. Yo wheels. Catch. Ethan looked up just in time to see the basketball hurtling toward his face. He jerked sideways, instinct not strategy, and his wheelchair skidded on the ice. He went down hard. The chair tipped. His body slammed against the frozen concrete. Pain exploded through his hip, his shoulder, his wrist. And they laughed. Not just Camden. All of them. Brianna filmed it, of course. Her phone was always out, always ready to capture his humiliation and package it as entertainment. Oh my God, he fell, she squealed, zooming in on his face. This is literally gold. Julian stood over him, hands in his pockets, grinning like a predator watching wounded prey. You good, Wheels? Need a hand. He extended his hand, then pulled it back at the last second. Oh wait, you probably can't even grip it. My bad. Porter laughed so hard he doubled over. Vanessa looked away. That was all she ever did. Look away. Ethan tried to push himself up. His left arm buckled. His hand, always shaking, always betraying him, couldn't find purchase on the ice. A teacher finally intervened. Mrs. Halloway, the only faculty member who ever seemed to give a damn. That's enough, she snapped, rushing over. Get to class. Now. Camden shrugged. We were just playing around. Now, Mr. Shaw. They left. Still laughing. Still filming. Mrs. Halloway helped Ethan back into his chair. She didn't say anything. What could she say? They both knew how this worked. Camden's father donated $500,000 to the school every year. Ethan's mother couldn't even afford the PTA membership fee. You should report this, she said quietly. Ethan said nothing. What was the point? But it wasn't over. At lunch, Ethan sat alone, as always, at the table near the back exit. He'd brought food from home. Leftover pasta his mom made Sunday night. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He was 3 bites in when he felt the presence behind him. Camden. Hey Wheels. You know what? I've been thinking. Ethan didn't turn around. He'd learned that engaging only made it worse. I've been thinking that you don't really belong here. You know? Like this is Riverside Prep. We're supposed to be the best and the brightest. Camden leaned down, his voice dropping to a mock whisper. But you're just dragging us down, man. Literally. Julian appeared on Ethan's left. Porter on his right. Brianna stood in front, phone out. We took a vote, Julian said, grinning. And we decided you need a reality check. Before Ethan could react, Porter grabbed the back of his wheelchair and yanked it backward, hard. Ethan's lunch flew off the table. Pasta splattered across the floor. His hands shot out to grip the armrests, but Porter kept pulling, kept dragging him backward across the cafeteria. Students watched. Some laughed. Most just stared. No one helped. Porter dragged him all the way to the center of the room, the most visible spot where everyone could see, and then let go. The chair stopped abruptly. Ethan's body jerked forward, nearly tipping out. Camden stepped in front of him, crouched down so they were eye level. And he smiled. It wasn't the smile of a bully enjoying a joke. It was colder than that. More deliberate. It was the smile of someone who knew he was untouchable. You don't matter, Wheels, Camden said softly, just loud enough for Ethan to hear. You never will. People like you? You're just here. Taking up space. And people like me? We run the world. My dad runs the world. And one day I will too. He stood up. Looked around the cafeteria. Raised his voice. Everybody say hi to Wheels. A few people laughed. A few clapped. Most just looked uncomfortable and did nothing. Brianna posted the video that night. Caption, when you're so irrelevant you need a wheelchair just to get attention, skull rolling on the floor laughing #Wheels the clown. 12,000 likes. 3,400 shares. 200 plus comments. Ethan read every single one. That night Ethan didn't go to his laptop right away. He sat in his room in the dark, staring at nothing. His mother came home at 11 p.m., exhausted from her shift. She knocked on his door. Baby? You okay? I'm fine. You sure? Mrs. Halloway called me. She said. I'm fine, Mom. Silence. Then softly, you know I love you, right? Ethan's throat tightened. I know. And you know you're brilliant. You're going to do amazing things. These kids, they don't matter. But they did. They mattered because they had power. And he didn't. Yet. At 1 a.m. Ethan opened his laptop. He pulled up the document. The list. He stared at Camden Shaw's name for a long time. Then he opened a new tab and started researching hostile takeovers. Leveraged buyouts. Corporate sabotage. Bankruptcy filings. Every legal weapon a person could use to destroy a company from the inside out. He read until sunrise. And when he finally closed his laptop, something had shifted inside him. The pain was still there. The humiliation. The rage. But it wasn't chaotic anymore. It was focused. Cold. Deadly. He looked at his hands. They were shaking as always. But his mind? His mind was steady as steel. And he made a second promise to himself. I will become so powerful that their entire world will collapse with a single signature. And when they beg me to stop, I'll smile the way Camden smiled today. And I'll say no. If someone humiliated you like this, would you seek revenge or move on? Drop your honest answer in the comments. No judgment here. The video didn't go away. That was the thing about the internet. About cruelty digitized and distributed. It lived forever. Hashtag Wheels the Clown trended at Riverside Prep for 2 weeks. Students Ethan had never spoken to knew his name, knew his face, knew his humiliation frame by frame. In the hallways people whispered. In classes they stared. In the bathroom someone had scrawled Wheels was here barely, on the stall door. Ethan stopped going to the cafeteria. He ate in the library in the corner behind the reference section where no one ever went. Mrs. Halloway pretended not to notice. His mother tried to talk to the administration. Principal Brennan, a man whose office was wallpapered with plaques thanking the Shaw family, the Rost family, the Knight family for their generous contributions, listened politely. Then he said, "Boys will be boys, Ms. Cole. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" His mother's voice cracked. "They assaulted my son. They humiliated him. And they posted it online for the entire school to see. I understand your frustration, but do you? Do you understand what it's like to watch your child come home every day a little more broken?" Principal Brennan's expression didn't change. If Ethan feels unsafe, perhaps a transfer to a school with more appropriate accommodations would be beneficial. Translation: leave. You don't belong here. Ethan's mother stood abruptly. Her chair scraped against the floor. "Come on, baby," she said quietly, her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "We're done here." They left. And Ethan understood, with brutal clarity, that no one was coming to save him. That night, Camden Shaw sat in his father's study, feet propped up on a mahogany desk worth more than most people's cars. His father, Richard Shaw, a man whose handshake could close billion-dollar deals, leaned back in his leather chair, swirling scotch in a crystal glass. "So," Richard said, "your mother tells me you've been having some fun at school." Camden grinned. "Just keeping things interesting. This kid in the wheelchair. What's his name?" "Ethan something. Cole, I think." Richard took a sip. "And you posted a video." "Brianna did. But yeah, it's hilarious. You should see it." Richard set his glass down. His expression was unreadable. "You know what I learned in business, Camden?" "What?" "There are 2 types of people in this world. Winners and losers. Predators and prey." He leaned forward. "And the moment you show weakness, the moment you let people think you're prey, you're done. Finished. The world eats you alive." Camden nodded. He'd heard this speech before. "So if this kid, Ethan, if he's weak, if he can't handle the pressure, that's not your problem. That's his problem. You understand?" "Yes, sir." "Good." Richard stood, clapped his son on the shoulder. "Now go get some sleep. We've got the charity gala tomorrow. Senator Marks will be there. I need you sharp." Camden left, feeling invincible. His father watched him go, then returned to his desk. He didn't think about Ethan Cole. Why would he? The boy was nobody. But Ethan was thinking about Richard Shaw. He was thinking about all of them. At 2 a.m., while the rest of the world slept, Ethan sat in front of his laptop, eyes burning, fingers flying across the keyboard. He wasn't just researching anymore. He was planning. Shaw Industrial Holdings had 3 major clients: AutoNation Corp., Midwest Manufacturing, and Jensen Automotive. Together, they accounted for 73% of Shaw's revenue. Ethan pulled up AutoNation's financials. Public company. Board members listed. CEO, Marcus, no Daniel Fry. Voting structure. Shareholder breakdown. He took notes. Then he moved to Rostco Real Estate. Gregory Rost's empire. Residential developments across the tri-state area. But there were cracks. Ethan found them in the financial disclosures, in the lawsuit filings buried in county records. Zoning disputes. Environmental violations. Unhappy investors. Weaknesses. Every company had them. Every powerful family had secrets. And Ethan was going to learn every single one. At school the next day it got worse. Ethan was leaving physics class when someone, he didn't see who, shoved his wheelchair from behind. He lurched forward, crashed into a locker. Books scattered. Laughter echoed down the hallway. He bent down to pick them up. His hand shook so badly he dropped one twice. A foot stepped on it. "Julian." "Oops," Julian said, grinding his heel into the cover. "My bad, Wheels." Ethan looked up. Met his eyes. And for the first time he didn't look away. Julian noticed. His smile faltered for just a second. "The hell are you looking at?" Ethan said nothing. Just held his gaze. Cold. Empty. Unflinching. Julian shifted uncomfortably, then laughed it off. "Freak," he muttered, walking away. But something had changed. Ethan wasn't scared anymore. He was patient. That weekend, Ethan's mother sat him down at their tiny kitchen table. "Baby, I need to talk to you." Ethan looked up from his laptop. "What's wrong?" She hesitated. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "I talked to a lawyer. About what happened. The video, the assault, everything. And he said unless there's physical injury that requires medical attention, or unless the school takes disciplinary action, there's not much we can do. And even if we tried, the Shaws have lawyers that would bury us in legal fees we can't afford." Ethan said nothing. "I'm so sorry, baby. I tried. I swear I tried." "I know, Mom. Maybe we should transfer you. There's a good public school across town. They have a strong disability support program and—" "No, Ethan. No." His voice was firm. Final. "I'm not running away." His mother's face crumpled. "I just want you to be safe." "I will be." He reached across the table, took her hand. His fingers trembled, but his grip was strong. "I promise, Mom. I will be." She squeezed his hand, tears streaming down her face. She didn't understand, but she trusted him. That night, Ethan added a new section to his document. Timeline. Graduate high school, 3 years. Undergraduate degree, business/finance, 4 years. MBA top-tier program, 2 years. Build capital, 3 to 5 years. Acquire first company, year 10. Systematic destruction, years 10 to 15. He stared at the screen. 15 years. It felt like forever. But he had something they didn't. Patience. Discipline. And a rage so pure, so focused, that it would burn for decades if it had to. He saved the document, closed his laptop, and smiled for the first time in months. Not a happy smile. A hunter's smile. At the Shaw mansion, Camden was drunk, celebrating his 18th birthday with 20 of his closest friends. None of whom actually liked him, but all of whom enjoyed his father's money. He didn't think about Ethan Cole. He'd already forgotten him. But Ethan would never forget Camden. Not his face. Not his voice. Not the way he smiled when he said, "You don't matter." And 15 years later, when Ethan walked into Shaw Industrial Holdings as its new owner, when he called Camden into his office and said, "You're fired," he would remember that smile. And return it. Graduation was supposed to be a finish line. For most students at Riverside Prep, it was a celebration. A launch pad into Ivy League schools, trust funds, and futures built on their parents' legacies. For Ethan Cole, it was survival. He'd made it. 4 years of hell and he'd made it. 4.0 GPA. Valedictorian. Full scholarship to MIT. But the school couldn't let him have even that. Principal Brennan called him into his office 3 weeks before graduation. "Ethan, we need to talk about the commencement ceremony." Ethan already knew where this was going. As valedictorian, you're entitled to give a speech. However, Brennan folded his hands on his desk, his expression painfully sympathetic in that practiced corporate way. Given the accessibility challenges of the stage setup, and considering the time constraints of the ceremony, we think it might be best if we have our salutatorian deliver the address instead. The salutatorian was Vanessa Chin. Vanessa, who'd stood by and watched every assault, every humiliation, every posted video. Vanessa, whose parents donated $250,000 to the school's new science wing. Ethan stared at Brennan. "You're taking away my speech. We're making a practical accommodation. Because I'm in a wheelchair. Because the stage has stairs, Ethan, and building a ramp at this point would be. There's been a ramp law since 1990. The ADA requires accessible stages in public ceremonies." Brennan's smile tightened. Riverside Prep is a private institution. Silence. Ethan felt it then. The final lesson this school would ever teach him. Power isn't about being right. It's about having the resources to make right irrelevant. "Fine," Ethan said quietly. Brennan looked relieved. "I'm glad you understand. We really do want what's best. I'll still attend the ceremony. But I want you to know something, Principal Brennan." "What's that?" Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice calm, measured, and colder than Brennan had ever heard from any 17-year-old. "One day you're going to see my name again. And when you do, you're going to remember this conversation. You're going to remember that you had a chance to do the right thing. And you chose not to." Brennan laughed, actually laughed. "Ethan, I admire your ambition, but I'm not finished." Ethan's eyes didn't blink. "You're going to remember this moment. And you're going to wish you'd built that ramp." He turned his wheelchair and left. Brennan watched him go, unsettled in a way he couldn't quite name. Then he shook it off. The boy was nobody. Graduation day arrived. The weather was perfect. Sunlight poured through the massive windows of Riverside Prep's auditorium. Families filled the seats. Mothers in designer dresses, fathers in tailored suits, siblings already bored. Ethan sat in the front row with the other honor students, wearing the same cap and gown as everyone else, but somehow still feeling separate. His mother sat in the audience, alone, holding flowers she'd bought from the grocery store. She was the only parent not dressed in designer labels. The only parent who'd had to take unpaid time off work to be there. But she was there, and she was proud. The ceremony began. Principal Brennan gave his speech, something bland about bright futures and the leaders of tomorrow. Then Vanessa Chen took the stage. She delivered the valedictorian address that should have been Ethan's. She talked about perseverance, community, respect. And the entire time, Camden, Julian, Porter, and Brianna sat 3 rows behind Ethan, whispering and laughing. "Can't believe Wheels actually made it," Camden muttered, loud enough for Ethan to hear. "Thought he'd have rolled off a cliff by now." Snickers. Ethan didn't turn around. He just listened, and remembered. After the ceremony, there was a reception on the lawn. Champagne for the adults, sparkling cider for the students. Everyone mingled, took photos, celebrated. Ethan's mother wheeled him toward the exit. They weren't staying, but fate, or cruelty, had other plans. "Ethan," he turned. Mrs. Halloway approached, smiling warmly. "I just wanted to say congratulations. MIT is lucky to have you." "Thank you, Mrs. Halloway." She hesitated, then crouched down slightly, lowering her voice. "I'm sorry. About the speech. About everything. You deserve better." Ethan met her eyes. "I know." She looked like she wanted to say more, but before she could, a voice interrupted. Well, if it isn't Wheels." Camden. He approached with his usual entourage, Julian, Porter, Brianna, all of them grinning. All of them untouchable in their graduation gowns and their parents' money. Mrs. Halloway straightened. Camden, that's enough. I'm just saying goodbye to an old friend. Camden stopped in front of Ethan, hands in his pockets, grin widening. So, Wheels? MIT, huh? That's actually impressive. I mean, I'm going to Princeton, but still. Good for you. Camden, Mrs. Holloway warned. What? I'm being nice. He looked at Ethan, tilting his head mockingly. Hey, real talk though. You think they have ramps at MIT? Because if not, you might want to reconsider. Julian laughed. Probably just gonna roll around the campus like a lost Roomba. Porter raised his phone. Someone record this. Brianna was already filming. Ethan's mother stepped forward, her voice shaking with restrained fury. Leave my son alone. Camden glanced at her, his smile never faltering. Ma'am, with all due respect, I'm just having a conversation. You're harassing him. You've been harassing him for 4 years. Harassing? That's a strong word. Camden looked back at Ethan. We were just having fun. Right, Wheels? No hard feelings. Ethan said nothing. He just stared. And in that moment, in the silence between heartbeats, something passed between them. Camden felt it. The shift. The coldness in Ethan's eyes that hadn't been there freshman year. For just a second, Camden's smile faltered. Then he laughed it off. Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, good luck at MIT. Try not to roll into traffic. They walked away laughing. Mrs. Holloway looked at Ethan, her expression pained. I'm so sorry. But Ethan wasn't looking at her. He was looking at Camden's back. At all of their backs. And his mother, who knew her son better than anyone, saw something in his face that made her heart ache. Not sadness. Not defeat. Something far more dangerous. Resolve. That night, in his bedroom, Ethan opened his laptop one last time before leaving for college. He pulled up the document. The list. The plan. He added one final note. Camden Shaw, Princeton University, class of 2012. Future, TBD. Projected weakness, entitlement, arrogance, overconfidence. Father's company, Shaw Industrial Holdings. Estimated net worth, $340 million. Projected vulnerabilities, client dependency, aging infrastructure, board composition. Hostile takeover feasibility, high. Timeline, 10 to 12 years. He saved it. Backed it up on 3 separate drives. Then he closed the laptop. His mother knocked on the door. You okay, baby? I'm fine, Mom. You excited about MIT? Ethan looked at his hands. They were shaking. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. Yeah, Mom. I'm excited. Because MIT wasn't just college. It was the beginning. The first step in a 15-year plan. And when it was done, Camden Shaw wouldn't be laughing anymore. None of them would. MIT didn't care that Ethan Cole arrived in a wheelchair. It cared that his entrance exam scores were in the 99th percentile. That his application essay on algorithmic trading strategies had impressed 3 different professors. That his recommendation letters described him as the most disciplined mind I've encountered in 30 years of teaching. At MIT, Ethan wasn't Wheels. He was just Ethan. And for the first time in 4 years, he could breathe. But he didn't relax. He couldn't. Because every time he closed his eyes, he saw Camden's face, heard Julian's laughter, felt the cold tile of the cafeteria floor against his cheek. The rage never left. It just became fuel. Freshman year, while other students partied and adjusted to dorm life, Ethan took 21 credit hours per semester. Computer science, economics, applied mathematics, corporate finance. He didn't sleep much. For maybe 5 hours a night. His roommate, a friendly kid from Oregon named Tyler, tried to get him to loosen up. Dude, you're gonna burn out. Come to a party. Meet some people. I'm good. When's the last time you did something fun? Ethan looked up from his textbook. Fun. Yeah, you know, fun. That thing normal people do. Ethan's expression didn't change. I'll have fun later. Tyler laughed nervously. That's kind of dark, man. But Ethan wasn't joking. Sophomore year, Ethan started his first business. It was small. A stock trading algorithm he built in his spare time. An AI that analyzed market patterns and executed trades automatically. He started with $3,000 he'd saved from a summer coding internship. 6 months later, he had $47,000. 1 year later, $230,000. He didn't tell anyone. Not his mother. Not his roommate. Not his professors. He just kept building. It was during junior year that Ethan met Professor Raymond Delacroix. Delacroix taught advanced corporate strategy, a graduate-level course that Ethan had petitioned to take early. The professor was in his 60s, a former Wall Street executive who retired to academia after making and losing 2 fortunes. He was brilliant, ruthless, and he saw something in Ethan that others didn't. After class one day, Delacroix called Ethan to his office. Mr. Cole, sit. Ethan wheeled into the small, cluttered office. Delacroix leaned back in his chair, studying him. Your last paper. The one on hostile takeovers and leveraged buyouts. What about it? It was frighteningly thorough. Most students write theoretical fluff. You wrote a manual. Ethan said nothing. Tell me something, Mr. Cole. Why are you so interested in corporate warfare? Most students your age are idealistic. They want to change the world, build the next big app, cure cancer. Delacroix smiled faintly. You want to destroy companies. Ethan met his gaze. I want to understand how power works. Why? Because people with power hurt people without it. And the only way to stop them is to take their power away. Delacroix was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Cole. Something I don't tell most students. What? The world isn't fair. You already know that. But here's what you might not know. Fairness is a lie we tell children to keep them obedient. In reality, the world belongs to those willing to do what others won't, to sacrifice what others can't, to become what others fear. Ethan leaned forward slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying you have something most people don't. Clarity. Focus. The willingness to play the long game. Delacroix pulled out a business card, slid it across the desk. If you want to learn how to truly wield power, not just understand it but wield it, call this number. Tell them I sent you. Ethan looked at the card. Marcus Hale, Hale Capital Management. Who is he? A friend. A predator. Someone who can teach you things I can't. Why are you helping me? Delacroix smiled. Because 30 years ago I was you. Angry, brilliant, hungry, and I wasted it. I let emotion cloud judgment. I made mistakes. He leaned forward. Don't make my mistakes, Mr. Cole. Be smarter. Be colder. And when you finally strike, make sure it's fatal. Ethan called the number. Marcus Hale was everything Professor Delacroix said he was: sharp, calculating, and utterly without mercy. He ran a private equity firm specializing in distressed asset acquisition, a polite term for buying dying companies, gutting them, and selling the pieces for profit. Hale took Ethan under his wing, not out of kindness, out of recognition. You remind me of myself, Hale said during their first meeting. Except you're smarter, and you're patient. Patience is rare. Ethan interned at Hale Capital Management every summer. He learned how to read balance sheets like battle maps, how to identify weak board members, how to exploit debt structures, how to make a company's own shareholders turn against it, how to destroy something from the inside without anyone realizing until it was too late, and most importantly, how to win without mercy. It was during his final summer internship, the summer before senior year, that Ethan discovered something that changed everything. He was researching Shaw Industrial Holdings. Not officially, just keeping tabs. The company was doing well. Revenue up, stock climbing. Richard Shaw had just been featured in Forbes as one of the top 50 manufacturing moguls in America. But Ethan dug deeper. He found the cracks. Shaw Industrial had overextended. Richard Shaw, in his arrogance, had taken on massive debt to finance an acquisition of a failing automotive parts supplier. The deal looked good on paper, vertical integration, cost savings, blah blah blah. But the supplier's books were cooked. Ethan found the red flags in the quarterly reports, the inconsistencies in inventory valuations, the suspiciously optimistic revenue projections. Shaw Industrial was sitting on a ticking time bomb, and Richard Shaw didn't even know it. Ethan made a note, filed it away. Not yet, but soon. Senior year, Ethan graduated summa cum laude. His mother cried at his graduation, MIT's graduation, where there were ramps, where the valedictorian, a young woman from India, gave a beautiful speech about perseverance and community, where no one called him Wheels. After the ceremony, his mother hugged him tightly. I'm so proud of you, baby. Thanks, Mom. What's next? Ethan looked out at the crowd of students and families celebrating. Business school, Wharton, full scholarship. His mother's eyes widened. Wharton, baby, that's incredible. Yeah, and after that? Ethan's expression was unreadable. After that, I'm going to build something. What kind of something? He looked at her, and for just a moment she saw it again, that coldness, that resolve. An empire, Mom. She smiled, thinking he was being ambitious. She didn't understand. He wasn't being ambitious. He was being literal. That night, alone in his apartment, Ethan updated the document. Phase 1, complete. Education, MIT BS Computer Science, minor in Economics. Capital, $1.2 million. Trading algorithm, network. Established, Hale, Delacroix, others. Next, Wharton MBA. Phase 2, beginning. Build capital to $50 million minimum. Establish investment firm. Begin acquisition strategy. Targets, Shaw Industrial Holdings, Priority 1. Roscoe Real Estate, Priority 2. Knight Logistics, Priority 3. Marks & Associates PR, Priority 4. Chin Technology Ventures, Priority 5. Timeline revised, 8 years. He was ahead of schedule. And at Princeton, Camden Shaw was failing his third corporate finance class, coasting on his father's name, completely unaware that a ghost from his past was sharpening knives in the dark. If you had Ethan's skills and resources, would you use them for revenge or move on? Be honest, drop your answer below. 8 years passed like a storm gathering strength. To the world, Ethan Cole became a name whispered in boardrooms with equal parts fear and respect. To his targets, he was still invisible. Exactly as planned. Year 1 post-Wharton. Ethan founded Apex Acquisitions, a private equity firm specializing in strategic corporate restructuring. Translation: he bought struggling companies, fixed them, and flipped them for profit. His first major deal was a $12 million acquisition of a failing logistics company in Ohio. He turned it around in 18 months and sold it for $34 million. The business press called him a wunderkind. Marcus Hale called him and said, "You're ready." For what? To stop playing small. Year 3. Ethan's net worth crossed $100 million. He moved from Boston to New York, bought a penthouse in Tribeca, not to show off but because he needed to be close to Wall Street, close to power. He hired a team, not employees. Weapons. Sarah Chin, no relation to Vanessa. A corporate attorney who'd made her name defending companies against hostile takeovers. Now she orchestrated them for Ethan. David Park, a financial analyst who could spot a company's vulnerability the way a shark smells blood in water. Rebecca Torres, a former investigative journalist who now ran opposition research. If a CEO had skeletons, Rebecca found them. Ethan's mother visited his penthouse once. She stood in the massive living room looking out at the Manhattan skyline and cried, "You did it, baby. You really did it." Ethan hugged her. "Not yet, Mom." "What do you mean? Look at all this." He didn't explain. She wouldn't understand. The money wasn't the goal. It was ammunition. Year 5. Ethan's net worth, $340 million. He built a reputation as a turnaround specialist, someone who could save dying companies. Boards loved him. Investors trusted him. Business schools wrote case studies about his methods. But what they didn't see was the pattern. Every company Ethan acquired had one thing in common. They were all suppliers, partners, or competitors of 5 specific corporations. Shaw Industrial Holdings, Rostco Real Estate, Knight Logistics, Marks & Associates PR, Chin Technology Ventures. Ethan was building a web, and his targets were flies, buzzing happily, unaware they were already caught. Year 6. Shaw Industrial Holdings hit a rough patch. The automotive parts supplier Richard Shaw had acquired years ago, the one with the cookbooks, finally imploded. Lawsuits, recalls, a congressional inquiry into safety violations. Shaw Industrial stock dropped 23% in 3 months. Ethan watched from his office, sipping coffee, feeling nothing. Not yet. The company was wounded but not weak enough. He needed Shaw to be desperate. So he waited. And while he waited, he made his first move against Roscoe Real Estate. Gregory Rost, Brianna's father, had built his empire on residential developments, luxury condos, gated communities, the American dream packaged and sold to the upper middle class. But Rost had a problem. He was over-leveraged. He'd taken on massive debt to fund 3 simultaneous projects in different states. If even one failed, the whole house of cards could collapse. Ethan bought the debt. Not directly. Through a shell company. Quietly. Then he waited for Rost to miss a payment. It took 4 months. When Rost defaulted, Ethan's lawyers moved in like a SWAT team. Foreclosure proceedings. Asset seizures. Board pressure. Rost fought back. Hired the best lawyers money could buy. But Ethan had already bought out 2 of Roscoe's biggest investors. He controlled 34% of the company's voting shares. At the emergency board meeting, Ethan appeared via video call. Gregory Rost saw his face for the first time. "Who the hell are you?" Rost demanded. "My name is Ethan Cole. I'm the majority shareholder of Roscoe Real Estate as of 9 a.m. this morning. And I'm here to inform you that the board has voted, unanimously, to remove you as CEO, effective immediately." Rost's face went white. "You can't do this." "I just did. I built this company from nothing. And I bought it for pennies on the dollar because you were too arrogant to see the cliff you were driving toward." Ethan's voice was calm. Clinical. "Your severance package will be forwarded to your attorney. Security will escort you from the building within the hour." "You son of a..." Ethan ended the call. He didn't need to hear the rest. That night, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, looking out at the city lights. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Gregory Rost ousted from Roscoe Real Estate in shock board coup. Ethan read the article. Rost was quoted calling the takeover a betrayal and corporate terrorism. Ethan smiled. Then he opened his laptop and pulled up a very old document. He found Brianna's name. And next to it he typed, "Complete." But he wasn't done with the Rost family. Not even close. Because 3 days later, Brianna Rost, now 30 years old, working as a senior VP of brand development at her father's company, a position she was spectacularly unqualified for, received a call from HR. "Ms. Rost, we need you to come to the office immediately." "What? What's going on?" "There's been a corporate restructuring. Mr. Cole would like to speak with you." "Who the hell is Mr. Cole?" 20 minutes later, Brianna sat in a sterile conference room, confused and annoyed. The door opened. A man in a wheelchair entered, impeccably dressed, sharp eyes, a face she didn't recognize, but should have. "Ms. Rost," Ethan said, his voice smooth and cold. "Thank you for coming." "Who are you?" "I'm the new owner of Roscoe Real Estate." Brianna's confusion deepened. "Where's my father?" "Your father no longer works here." "What? That's impossible." He owned 42% of the company. I own 51%. And as of this morning, I've restructured the executive team." Ethan slid a folder across the table. "Your position has been eliminated." Brianna stared at him. "You're firing me?" "Yes." "You can't do that." "My father." "Your father is no longer relevant to this conversation." Her face flushed red. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Ethan tilted his head slightly as if considering the question. Then he leaned forward. "Do you remember a boy named Ethan Cole?" Brianna blinked. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but... Riverside Prep. 15 years ago. You called me Wheels. The color drained from her face. Recognition hit like a freight train. "Oh my God. You filmed me, mocked me, posted videos of my humiliation for thousands of people to see." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "And now I'm filming you. He gestured to the camera in the corner of the room. Brianna's hands started shaking. We were kids. It was a long time ago. It was. Ethan stood, no, rose, from his wheelchair. He walked, slowly, deliberately. Brianna's eyes went wide. You can walk? I've been able to walk for 8 years. Surgery, physical therapy, expensive, very expensive. He stopped in front of her, but I kept the wheelchair. Do you know why? She couldn't speak, because it reminds me, every single day, of what people like you did to me, of why I'm here. Tears started streaming down Brianna's face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please. I was young and stupid, Anne. Your severance is $0. Your health insurance ends today. Your company car will be repossessed by 5 p.m. Security will escort you out. He turned toward the door. Please, Brianna sobbed. Please, I have a mortgage, I have bills, Ethan stopped. Look back. You should have thought about that before you destroyed a 17-year-old boy for Instagram likes. He left. Behind him, Brianna collapsed into sobs. And Ethan felt nothing. Just cold satisfaction. 1 down. 4 to go. Camden Shaw's life had always been easy. Princeton degree barely earned. VP position at Shaw Industrial Holdings handed to him. A penthouse in Manhattan, paid for by Dad. A Porsche 911, also paid for by Dad. A string of relationships with women who loved his last name more than his personality. At 33, Camden had never faced a single consequence in his entire life, until Ethan Cole decided it was time. 3 months after Brianna's firing, Shaw Industrial Holdings was struggling. The lawsuits from the faulty automotive parts had ballooned into a $180 million settlement. Stock price had plummeted 40%. Major clients were jumping ship. Richard Shaw was scrambling, trying to save his legacy. And then Ethan made his move. He started with Shaw Suppliers. Over the previous 2 years, Ethan had quietly acquired 3 companies that supplied critical components to Shaw Industrial. Hydraulic systems, precision tooling, industrial coatings. Shaw Industrial depended on them, and Ethan owned them. One by one, Ethan's companies renegotiated their contracts with Shaw Industrial. Prices doubled. Delivery timelines extended. Terms became impossible. Richard Shaw tried to find alternative suppliers, but Ethan had already bought them too, or made them offers they couldn't refuse. The news tightened. 6 months later, Shaw Industrial stock was in free fall. Board members were panicking. Investors were bailing. Rumors of bankruptcy circulated in the business press. Richard Shaw, for the first time in his life, was desperate. And desperation made people sloppy. That's when Ethan struck. Through a shell corporation called Titan Holdings, Ethan made an offer to acquire Shaw Industrial Holdings. The offer was generous. Too generous. $340 million, exactly what the company had been worth at its peak. Richard Shaw wanted to refuse on principle, but the board overruled him. Shareholders were bleeding money. They wanted out. The vote was 8-2 in favor of the sale. Shaw Industrial Holdings was sold to a company Richard Shaw had never heard of, owned by a man he didn't know. Yet, the day of closing, Richard Shaw sat in the conference room of his own company, former company, waiting to meet the new owner. He was furious, humiliated. His legacy sold to some faceless corporate raider. The door opened. A man in a wheelchair rolled in, flanked by attorneys. Richard barely glanced at him. Probably just some lawyer. But then the man spoke. Mr. Shaw, thank you for coming. Richard looked up. Who are you? My name is Ethan Cole. I'm the CEO of Titan Holdings. And as of 9 a.m. this morning, I own Shaw Industrial Holdings. Richard's brow furrowed. The name sounded vaguely familiar. Have we met? Not directly. But your son knows me. Camden? Yes. Ethan smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. We went to high school together. Richard's expression shifted. Confusion. Then something else. A flicker of recognition. Wait, you're that kid. The one in the wheelchair. The one Camden. The one Camden tortured for 4 years? Yes, that's me. The room went silent. Richard's lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Richard's face hardened. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Mr. Cole, but it's not a game, Mr. Shaw. It's justice. Ethan leaned forward. Your son destroyed my life. You taught him that people like me don't matter. That power is the only thing that matters. So I decided to take your power. And now I'm going to use it. You can't. I can. And I will. Effective immediately, you are removed as chairman of the board. Your severance package is $1. Your stock options are void. You have 1 hour to clear your office. Richard shot to his feet. You son of a bitch. I built this company from nothing. And I bought it for less than it's worth because you raised a monster and never faced the consequences. Ethan's voice was ice. Now you will. Richard's hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage. This is illegal. I'll sue you into the ground. Go ahead. I have 17 lawyers who would love that fight. Ethan gestured to the door. Security is waiting. Richard looked around the room. At his own lawyers. At the board members who'd voted to sell. No one met his eyes. He'd lost. And worse, he'd lost to someone he'd considered irrelevant. As security escorted him out, Richard turned back one last time. My son had nothing to do with this, he said, his voice breaking. He's just a kid who made mistakes. Ethan's expression didn't change. So was I, Mr. Shaw. So was I. 2 hours later, Camden Shaw sat in his corner office, scrolling through his phone, oblivious to the chaos unfolding 3 floors above him. His assistant knocked. Mr. Shaw, you have a meeting. I didn't schedule anything. It's urgent. Mr. Cole wants to see you. Who the hell is Mr. Cole? 10 minutes later, Camden stood in what used to be his father's office. Behind the desk sat a man in a wheelchair. Camden didn't recognize him. Who are you? Camden demanded. And where's my father? Your father no longer works here. Camden laughed. That's impossible. He owns this company. He owned it. I bought it this morning. Camden's smile faded. What? Sit down, Camden. I'm not sitting down until you tell me what the hell is going on. Ethan stood. Camden froze. The man wasn't disabled. He was walking. What the? Do you remember a boy named Ethan Cole? Camden's face went pale. The name. The wheelchair. The cold, empty eyes. It hit him all at once. Oh shit. Oh shit is right. Ethan walked around the desk slowly. 15 years ago you made my life hell. You pushed me downstairs. You mocked me in front of hundreds of people. You told me I didn't matter. Camden backed toward the door. We were kids, man. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. You're not sorry. You're scared. There's a difference. Ethan stopped 3 feet away. I spent 15 years building an empire for one reason, to destroy you. Please, I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly, You're fired. What? You're fired. Effective immediately. No severance. No references. Your company car, your company credit card, your company apartment, all revoked. Ethan handed him a folder. You have 2 hours to vacate the premises. Camden opened the folder. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely read. This is insane. You can't do this. I already did. My father. Your father is gone. This is my company now. Camden's legs nearly gave out. He grabbed the edge of the desk for support. Why? His voice cracked. Why are you doing this? Ethan leaned in close. Because you asked me a question once. Do you remember? Camden shook his head, tears streaming down his face. You asked me if I thought MIT had ramps. You laughed. You filmed it. You made me feel like nothing. Camden sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So am I. Ethan stepped back. Security will escort you out. 2 guards appeared in the doorway. Camden looked at Ethan one last time, desperation in his eyes. Please, I have nothing. No job, no money, my father's reputation is destroyed. What am I supposed to do? Ethan's expression was carved from stone. Survive, Camden. Like I did. The guards escorted him out. Camden's sobs echoed down the hallway. And Ethan stood alone in the office looking out at the city. He felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. No relief. Just cold, hollow emptiness. But he wasn't done. Not yet. 1 week later, Julian Marks received a termination letter from Marks & Associates PR. The firm had been quietly acquired by a holding company. Julian's mother had been forced out. Julian's cushy VP position, eliminated. Porter Knight found out his father's logistics company had been sold to Apex Acquisitions. Porter's Director of Operations title, a job he barely showed up for, was revoked. Fired. Vanessa Chen's parents' tech company went bankrupt after a series of failed investments and mysterious contract cancellations. Vanessa, who'd been living off her trust fund, discovered the fund had been liquidated to cover debts. Bro. One by one they fell. And one by one they received the same envelope. Inside, a single photo. A screenshot from 15 years ago. Their faces laughing. And Ethan on the ground. No message. No explanation. They didn't need one. They knew. Victory tasted like ashes. Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a city that never slept. He should have felt satisfied. He should have felt vindicated. He'd done it. Every single one of them, destroyed. Camden, Brianna, Julian, Porter, Vanessa. Their parents, their legacies, their futures, all of it gone. Because of him. But instead of triumph, all he felt was empty. 2 weeks after Camden's firing, the business world was buzzing. 5 major corporate upheavals in 6 months, all connected to a mysterious figure named Ethan Cole. The press called him a corporate assassin, a turnaround genius, a ruthless maverick. Forbes wanted an interview. The Wall Street Journal was writing a profile. Business schools wanted him to speak. But Ethan declined everything. He didn't want fame. He wanted what? He didn't know anymore. His mother called. Baby, I saw the news. Is it true? Did you really buy all those companies? Yeah, Mom. That's incredible. You're on the cover of Business Week. Silence. Ethan, you okay? I'm fine. But he wasn't fine. His mother could hear it in his voice. That hollowness. That distance. Baby, when's the last time you slept? I sleep. When's the last time you left that apartment for something other than work? He didn't answer. Ethan, you need to take care of yourself. You've accomplished so much, but I have to go, Mom. Meeting in 10 minutes. Ethan. He hung up, then immediately regretted it. But he didn't call back. That night, Ethan received an email. The subject line, I'm sorry. Sender, Camden Shaw. Ethan stared at it for 5 minutes before opening it. Mr. Cole, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need to say it. I'm sorry. I know those words mean nothing. I know they don't undo what I did to you. But I need you to know that I think about it every day. I think about the person I was. The cruelty. The entitlement. Losing everything. My job, my father's respect, my future. It forced me to see myself for the first time. And I hate what I see. You were right. I was a monster. I bullied you because it made me feel powerful. Because I never had to face consequences. Because my father taught me that people like you didn't matter. I was wrong. You mattered. You always mattered. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. I'm 33 years old and I've never had to fight for anything in my life. I don't even know how. But I'm trying. I got a job. It's not much. Sales associate at a tech startup. $45,000 a year. I take the subway now. I live in a studio in Queens. It's humbling. Terrifying. But maybe that's what I needed. I just wanted you to know. You won. You broke me. And maybe I needed to be broken. I don't expect anything from you. I just hope that one day you find peace. Because I don't think revenge gives people peace. I think it just gives them more pain. I'm sorry, Ethan. For everything. Camden. Ethan read the email 3 times. Then he deleted it. But it stayed in his mind. 3 days later, Ethan met with his team at Apex Acquisitions. Sarah Chin laid out the next phase of expansion. We've got interest from 2 more companies. If we move now, we can double our portfolio by Q3. David Park added, the Shaw acquisition is already profitable. We've cut costs, streamlined operations. Revenue's up 12%. Rebecca Torres smiled. And the press loves you. You're the underdog story everyone wants. Ethan said nothing. Sarah noticed. You okay, boss? Yeah, I'm fine. But he wasn't. Later, after everyone left, Sarah stayed behind. Ethan, real talk. What's going on? He looked at her. She was one of the few people he trusted. One of the few people who'd seen him at his lowest and never judged. I did it, he said quietly. I destroyed them. All of them. And now, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Sarah sat down across from him. You're supposed to live. What? You spent 15 years planning revenge. You executed it perfectly. But now it's over. And you have to figure out who Ethan Cole is when he's not hunting. I don't know how to do that. Then maybe it's time to learn. 1 week later, Ethan went to visit his mother. She lived in a modest house in New Jersey now, one he bought her 3 years ago. She'd refused anything bigger. Too much space for one person, she'd said. She opened the door and her face lit up. Baby. She hugged him tightly. He hugged her back. They sat in the kitchen. She made coffee. They talked about small things, her garden, her book club, the neighbor's cat. Then she asked, are you happy? Ethan looked at her. What? Are you happy, Ethan? He didn't know how to answer that. You've accomplished everything you set out to do, she continued. You're successful, powerful, respected. But when I look at you, I don't see happiness. I see exhaustion. Mom? I'm not judging you, baby. I just want you to be okay. I want you to have a life. Friends. Maybe someone special. Something other than work and whatever it is you've been carrying all these years. Ethan's throat tightened. I hurt people, Mom. I know. People who hurt me first. But I still hurt them. She reached across the table, took his hand. And now you have to decide if that's who you want to be. The man who destroys. Or the man who builds. I don't know if I can do both. Maybe you can't. Maybe you have to choose. That night, back in his penthouse, Ethan sat in the dark. He opened his laptop. Pulled up the old document. The list. Camden Shaw, complete. Brianna Rost, complete. Julian Marks, complete. Porter Knight, complete. Vanessa Chin, complete. All of them. Done. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he opened a new email. Recipient, Camden Shaw. Subject, I'm sorry. He typed, Camden, I read your email. You're right. Revenge doesn't bring peace. It just brings more emptiness. I spent 15 years hating you, building an empire to destroy you. And now that it's done, I realize something. I didn't just destroy your life. I destroyed mine too. I don't forgive you. I don't know if I ever will. But I'm done carrying this rage. It's been eating me alive for too long. You said you're trying. Keep trying. Build something. Become someone better than the kid you were. And maybe one day I'll figure out how to do the same. Ethan, he read it over. His finger hovered over the send button. And then he deleted it. Not out of cruelty, but because he realized something. Camden didn't need his forgiveness. And Ethan didn't need Camden's apology. They both just needed to move forward. Ethan closed his laptop. He looked out at the city. And for the first time in 15 years, he didn't see targets. He just saw possibility. Maybe his mother was right. Maybe it was time to build instead of destroy. Maybe it was time to stop being the hunter and start being someone else. But first, he had one final move to make. One last piece to close the circle. 6 months had passed since Ethan had fired Camden Shaw. 6 months since he'd dismantled 5 family empires. 6 months since he'd tasted revenge. And it still wasn't enough. Because there was one person he hadn't dealt with yet. One person who'd enabled it all. Principal Marcus Brennan. Ethan had kept tabs on him over the years. Brennan had retired from Riverside Prep 5 years ago with a generous pension. funded largely by donations from the Shaw, Rost, Knight, Marks, and Chin families. He lived comfortably in a gated community in Connecticut, played golf 3 times a week, collected his pension checks, lived the peaceful retirement of a man who'd never faced consequences for his complicity. But Ethan remembered. He remembered sitting in that office, being told his valedictorian speech was being taken away because a ramp was too expensive. He remembered his mother begging for help only to be told, boys will be boys. He remembered Brennan's smile, that practiced, sympathetic smile that meant nothing. And Ethan had one final move to make. The call. Brennan was having breakfast on his patio when his phone rang. A known number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Principal Brennan. This is Ethan Cole. Silence. I'm sorry, who? Ethan Cole. Riverside Prep, class of 2010. I was the student in the wheelchair. The one you told to give up his valedictorian speech because accessibility was impractical. Brennan's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Oh, yes. I remember. How are you? I'm well. Very well, actually. I'm calling because I have a proposition for you. A proposition? I'm establishing a foundation. The Cole Foundation for Educational Equity. We provide scholarships, accessibility resources, and anti-bullying programs to schools across the country. Brennan relaxed slightly. That sounds wonderful. It is. And I'd like to make Riverside Prep one of our flagship partners. A $10 million endowment. New accessibility infrastructure. Anti-bullying training for all staff. A complete transformation. Brennan's eyes widened. 10 million? Yes. But there's one condition. What's that? You have to publicly apologize. Silence. Apologize. Yes. At the dedication ceremony. In front of the current students, faculty, and press. You need to acknowledge that you failed students like me. That you prioritized wealthy donors over vulnerable students. That you enabled a culture of cruelty. Brennan's voice hardened. Mr. Cole, I understand you had a difficult experience, but I did my best with limited resources. You had a choice. Every single time a student complained about Camden Shaw, Julian Marks, or any of the others. Every time you ignored it because their parents wrote checks. You chose money over morality. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Principal Brennan. You taught me that. Ethan's voice was ice. So here's your choice. Apologize publicly and your legacy becomes one of redemption. Or refuse and I make sure every journalist, every educational board, every parent in the country knows exactly what kind of administrator you were. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you an opportunity. More than you ever gave me. Brennan was silent for a long moment. Fine, he said finally, his voice tight. I'll do it. Good. The ceremony is in 2 weeks. My assistant will send the details. Ethan hung up. 2 weeks later, Riverside Prep. The auditorium was packed. Current students, faculty, alumni, local press. And sitting in the front row in his wheelchair, because today he chose to use it, was Ethan Cole. Next to him sat his mother, tears already streaming down her face. Principal Brennan, former Principal Brennan, stood at the podium looking uncomfortable in his suit. The current principal, a young black woman named Dr. Patricia Henderson, introduced him. Today we're honored to have Marcus Brennan, who served Riverside Prep for 30 years, and Ethan Cole, whose generous donation will transform accessibility and safety at this school. Polite applause. Brennan stepped to the microphone. He cleared his throat. Thank you for having me. He looked at his notes. Then at Ethan. I'm here today to acknowledge some failures during my tenure as principal. The room went quiet. 15 years ago there was a student at this school who faced relentless bullying. His name was Ethan Cole. He was in a wheelchair due to cerebral palsy. And instead of protecting him, I looked the other way. Murmurs rippled through the audience. I prioritized relationships with wealthy donors over the safety and dignity of vulnerable students. I told myself I was doing what was best for the school. But the truth is I was doing what was easiest. What was most profitable. Brennan's voice cracked. Ethan Cole should have been protected. He should have been celebrated. He was our valedictorian. But I took that honor away from him because I was more concerned about logistics than justice. He looked directly at Ethan. I'm sorry. I failed you. And I failed every student I didn't protect. The room was silent. Then Ethan began to clap. Slowly. Deliberately. His mother joined him. Then Dr. Henderson. Then the entire auditorium. But Ethan's applause wasn't congratulatory. It was mocking. And Brennan knew it. After the ceremony, Brennan approached Ethan. I did what you asked. You did. So we're done. Ethan looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd once held so much power over his life. Now he just looked old, tired, small. We're done, Ethan said. Brennan nodded, relief flooding his face. But understand something, Ethan continued. You'll carry this for the rest of your life. Every time you see a news story about bullying. Every time you hear about a kid who took their own life because no one protected them. You'll think about me. And you'll know you were part of the problem. Brennan's face crumpled. I know. Good. Ethan wheeled away. That evening, Ethan sat with his mother in her kitchen. She made him tea. They didn't talk for a while. Finally she spoke. Are you done now, baby? Ethan looked at his hands. They still shook. They always would. But somehow they felt lighter. Yeah, Mom. I'm done. What are you going to do now? He thought about it. Build something. Something good. The foundation, it's real. I want to help kids like me. Kids who think they don't matter. His mother's eyes filled with tears. I'm so proud of you. I hurt people, Mom. People who hurt you first. Does that make it right? She reached across the table, took his hand. I don't know. But I know you can't change the past. You can only choose what you do next. Ethan nodded slowly. Then I choose to build. 1 year later. The Cole Foundation had partnered with 47 schools across 12 states. Ethan had hired a team of educators, counselors, and advocates. People who actually cared about protecting vulnerable students. He still ran Apex acquisitions. Still made millions. But now he had a purpose beyond revenge. He'd also started therapy. Finally dealing with the trauma he'd carried for so long. It was hard. Painful. But necessary. And Camden Shaw? He was still working at the tech startup. Still living in Queens. Still struggling. But he'd started volunteering at a youth mentorship program. Working with kids from rough backgrounds. Trying to be better. One day he ran into Ethan at a coffee shop in Manhattan. Their eyes met. Camden froze. Ethan nodded once. Camden nodded back. And they both walked away. No words. No apologies. No forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. Two men who'd destroyed each other. Both trying to rebuild. But Julian Marks, Porter Knight, and Brianna Rost? They never recovered. Julian burned through what little money he had left and ended up working retail, bitter and broken, blaming everyone but himself. Porter developed a drinking problem, lost 3 jobs in 2 years, and his wife left him. He filed for bankruptcy at 35. Brianna tried to launch a comeback on social media, but the internet never forgets. Her past videos resurfaced. She was cancelled by the same culture that once celebrated her cruelty. She moved back in with her mother, working part-time at a boutique, humiliated daily by customers who recognized her. Ethan never reached out to them. Never offered mercy. They'd never offered him any. And Vanessa Chin? She wrote him a letter. It arrived at his office one random Tuesday. Ethan, I know I don't deserve your time. I probably don't deserve to even be writing this. I never bullied you. But I never stopped it either. And that makes me just as guilty. I stood by and watched while they destroyed you. I told myself I wasn't part of it because I wasn't actively cruel. But silence is cruelty too. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I needed to say it. I lost everything too. My family's company. My trust fund. My future. And you know what? I deserved it. I hope you find peace, Ethan. Real peace. Not the kind that comes from revenge. The kind that comes from healing. Vanessa. Ethan read the letter 3 times. Then he put it in a drawer and never responded. Because some apologies don't deserve answers. Some people don't deserve closure. And that was okay. 5 years later. Ethan stood on the stage at Riverside Prep's newly renovated auditorium. Fully accessible, state-of-the-art, funded by his foundation. He was delivering the keynote speech at graduation. Not as valedictorian. As the guest of honor. He looked out at the graduating class. Saw their faces. Their hope. Their fear. Their potential. And he spoke. 15 years ago, I sat where you're sitting. I was told I didn't belong. That I didn't matter. That people like me were inconvenient. Silence. I spent years believing that. And then I spent years proving them wrong. I built an empire. I destroyed my enemies. I got my revenge. He paused. And you know what I learned? The auditorium was silent. Revenge doesn't heal you. It just makes you someone else's villain. He let that sink in. So my advice to you, especially those of you who've been hurt, bullied, dismissed, is this. Don't let your pain define you. Don't let cruelty make you cruel. Build something better. Be something better. He smiled. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so successful, so fulfilled, so happy that your bullies become irrelevant footnotes in the incredible story of your life. Applause erupted. Ethan looked out at the crowd. And saw Camden Shaw. Sitting in the back row. He'd shown up. Alone. Uninvited. Just to hear Ethan speak. Their eyes met. And for the first time in 15 years, Ethan felt something other than anger when he looked at Camden Shaw. He felt nothing. Not hatred. Not satisfaction. Just indifference. And that, finally, was freedom. Ethan Cole went on to build a billion-dollar empire. Not through revenge. But through innovation, strategy, and relentless determination. He never forgot what happened to him at Riverside Prep. But he stopped letting it control him. He dated. Fell in love. Built a life. And every year, on the anniversary of his high school graduation, he donated another $1 million to his foundation. Not for himself. But for every kid who'd ever been told they didn't matter. Because they did matter. They always had. The end. Ethan destroyed his bullies completely, but it didn't bring him peace. In the end, he found it by helping others. If you had his power, would you choose destruction or redemption? Drop your honest answer below. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay broken. Thanks for watching. And that is Ethan's story. From the broken kid pushed down the stairs at Riverside Prep, to the billionaire who dismantled entire empires with nothing but patience, brilliance, and ice-cold determination. He didn't just survive. He won. But more than that, he learned that true victory isn't just about destroying your enemies. It's about refusing to let them define who you become. Now before you go, I need to be real with you for a second. If you made it this far, if you sat through this entire 60-minute story, that means something. It means you connected with Ethan's pain, his rage, his journey. And I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button right now. I know. You've heard this a million times. But here's the thing. That little thumbs up? It's not just a button. It's a signal. It tells YouTube that this story mattered to you, that it was worth your time. And it helps this channel reach more people. People like you, who need to hear stories about resilience, revenge, and rising from the ashes. Every single like pushes this story to someone who needs it. Maybe it's a kid getting bullied right now, wondering if it'll ever get better. Maybe it's someone who's been underestimated their whole life, waiting for proof that they can win. Maybe it's you 6 months ago before you found this channel. Your like matters. It genuinely, truly matters. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This channel is built for people who refuse to accept defeat. People who know that the world isn't fair, but refuse to let that stop them. We tell stories about people who were counted out, written off, and left for dead, and came back stronger than anyone thought possible. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because you don't want to miss what's coming next. We've got stories about people who lost everything and rebuilt empires. Stories about underdogs who made their enemies regret ever underestimating them. Stories about pain, power, and the brutal beauty of never giving up. And yeah, more revenge stories. Because let's be honest, there's something deeply satisfying about watching karma finally catch up. Drop a comment right now and tell me. What would you do if you had Ethan's power and resources? Would you destroy your enemies completely like he did? Or would you take the high road and walk away? Be honest. No judgment. I read every single comment and I want to know what you think. And listen, I know it's just a YouTube channel. I know these are just stories. But to me, this is everything. Every view, every like, every comment, every subscriber. It's proof that these stories matter. That you matter. So thank you. Thank you for being here. For watching until the end. For giving an hour of your life to Ethan's story. It means more than you know. Alright, I'll let you go. But remember, your past doesn't define your future. Your pain doesn't determine your power. And the people who hurt you? They don't get to write the ending of your story. You do. Now go out there and build your empire. I'll see you in the next one.